Welcome to a Whiskey Night's Audible book reading. Today, we will be reading Chess Tactics by Yasser Seriawan, American GrandMaster and four-time American champion. Listen and watch as we help to grow your chess game. Chapter 1. Definitions. I know, definitions are boring. You probably just as soon skip them and jump right into a few juicy games. Be patient. We'll get to the games, and some of them are beauties, soon enough. But before we delve into the world of tactics and combinations, we should begin by defining them. For some strange reason, these terms seem to cause confusion. Just what are tactics and combinations? Surprisingly, coming up with a satisfactory definition of these commonly used chess terms is more difficult than one might suppose. Tactics. Chess is a game of strategy where two people pit their wits by mobilizing their pieces and developing plans based on such elements as force, the numerical value of the various pieces, time, the efficiency with which the pieces are developed, space, the territory controlled by each player, and pawn structure. Good players like to pick a strategy and follow it to its logical conclusion. Unfortunately, they are often thwarted by a strange randomizing factor known as tactics. Tactics can both support your own strategy and destroy your opponent's strategy. They take the wind out of the general strategic plans because they have the power to completely and advantageously change any situation. Thus, we arrive at this definition of tactics. Tactics are maneuvers that take advantage of short-term opportunities. For example, suppose your neighbor has invited you for a dinner and an evening of chess. You've enjoyed a scrumptious banquet, and the game has been laced with heady amounts of port. Your neighbor must now face your guillotine. Under no circumstances do you want to lose. Your strategy is to control the center and prepare an inexorable kingside assault. Who can argue with the principle of such an approach? However, in the middle of the plan, your opponent engineers a knight fork that picks up one of your rooks. You're busted, and your game falls apart. A brilliant strategy wrecked by a simple knight fork. Where did you make your mistake? You are the victim of a tactic. Clearly, you have lots to learn. Conversely, you can use these tactics to your own advantage. They can act as an early warning system that prevents your opponent from intruding on your plans with tricks of his own. As you work through the lessons in this book, you will come to realize that tactics are actually the guard dogs of strategy. By staying on top of the tactical possibilities, you will be able to defend yourself against your opponent's tactical forays and force him to follow the strategic path you want him to tread. Combinations. In classical chess literature, there has been tremendous disagreement as to the true meaning of the term combinations. Surely, the world champion, Emanuel Lesker, he enjoyed a 27-year reign, one of the longest in history, should know what a combination is. Let's take a look at his thoughts on the subject.
In the rare instances in which the player can detect a variation or set of variations, which leads to a desirable issue by force. The totality of these variations and their logical connections, their structure, are called a combination.
Lesker's definition has several problems. However, first, his style is ponderous and does not promote an easy understanding of the term. Second, he considers combinations to be rare occurrences, which is not at all the case. Combinations of some sort can be found in the majority of master games, sometimes in the moves actually played, and often in variations hidden behind those moves. Third, Lesker fails to mention that all combinations include a sacrifice. Fourth, and perhaps the most important, he claims that combinations necessarily lead to a desirable issue by force, leaving out any possibility that a combination could fail and lead to the loss of a game. What about a situation in which you have a clear advantage? Try a beautiful combinative idea, and after a perfect defense from your opponent, you find your advantage devalued to plain equality. Is an unsound combination no longer a combination simply because it is flawed? Certainly not. This tendency to ignore the possibility of incorrect combinations also mars this otherwise excellent definition offered by former world champion Mikhail Botvinnik.
A combination is a forced maneuver or maneuvers combined with a sacrifice, as a result of which the active side gains an objective advantage.
Note, Botvinnik's use of the word sacrifice. He is saying that the marriage of a forcing series of moves with a sacrifice makes a combination. This definition is easy to read and understand, but falls short of the mark because of the final few words. Gains an objective advantage. Building on the efforts of these great men, I offer a simple definition. A combination is a sacrifice combined with a forced sequence of moves, which exploits specific peculiarities of the position in the hopes of attaining a certain goal. So we have defined the beast, but does this definition make it easier for you to recognize a combination? Not at all. To develop a feeling for combinations, we must break them down into types that you can familiarize with. I discuss each type in detail in the chapters that follow. Recognizing tactics and combinations. Two authors, GrandMaster Yuri Averbek and International Master Jeremy Silman, have written extensively on tactics and combinations. Two books in particular, Averbak's Tactics for the Advanced Player, Sportverlag, Berlin, 1986, and Silman's How to Reassess Your Chess, Davenport, Thinkers Press, 1986, suggest useful shortcuts to make it easier to recognize situations where tactics and combinations might exist. Let's look at some of these authors' theories. Averbak's Rules of Recognition. Averbak considers that almost all combinations are based in some way on a double attack. If we regard the term double attack in a broader sense that has been done up to now by theoreticians, namely not merely as a two-pronged attack, but as a combination of attacks and threats, we notice that the double attack in one form or another is the basis of most tactical operations. At first, I didn't want to agree with such a simplified view, but the more I thought about it, the more sensible Averbach's theory sounded. The double attack is tremendously important, and I recommend that you spend a good deal of time going over the examples of double attacks in Chapter 2. Once you have mastered the material there and have moved on, you will notice that the combinations in later chapters also involve double attacks, which seems to confirm Averbach's theory. Silman's rule of recognition. Silman insists that combinations cannot exist without one or more of the following present: a weakened or open king. When a king has poor pawn cover, has no defenders, or is otherwise weak, a combination is probably in the works. A stalemated king. When a king has no legal moves, tactics that produce check also result in checkmate. Undefended pieces, not pawns. Any unguarded piece is subject to destruction by a double attack or fork. Inadequately guarded pieces, such as a piece appears to be safe, but a sudden double attack can place the piece in jeopardy by adding another attacker. If you notice one or more of these factors on the board, Silman contends that you should look for a combination. However, if none of these factors is present, it is doubtful that a combination will materialize. Well, that is it for definitions. It wasn't so bad, was it? Now, you need to train yourself to spot combinations. How do you do that? Learn the tactics presented in this book, gain a thorough understanding of the double attack theme, and practice Silman's rules of recognition. You will then be a very dangerous opponent. I hope you enjoyed this audible
E4,
book reading
C6,
by Whiskey Nights. If you did,
F4,
please hit the subscribe and like button and let us know
D5.
what you thought in the comments below. And if you have any suggestions on chess books that you would like us to read to you, then please list them.
E takes D5.
Now, before we
takes
leave,
D5.
we will include
Knight F3.
a brief game at the end of this video for you to review on chess tactics and combinations. And with that, I would like to
Bishop
bid you
G4.
farewell and good day.
Bishop B5 check. Knight C6. Short castle. E6. Queen E1. Queen B6 check. D4. Queen takes B5. Knight E5. Bishop f5. Knight takes c6. Queen takes c6. Bishop e3. Queen takes c2. Knight c3. Bishop b4. Queen c1. Queen d3. Knight b5. Queen takes b5. Rook f3. Knight f6. Bishop d2. Short castle. Bishop takes b4. Queen takes b4. a3. Queen takes d4 check. King h1. Rook ac8. Queen e3. Queen takes b2. Rook a f1. Bishop g4. Rook g3. Bishop e2. Rook f2. Rook c1 check. Rook f1. Rook takes f1 check. Queen g1. Rook takes g1 check. King takes g1. Queen c1 check. King f2. Queen f1 check. King e3. Knight g4 check. Rook takes g4. Bishop takes g4. h3. Queen c1 check. King d4. Bishop e2. g4. Queen takes f4 check. King c5. Rook c8 checkmate.